Hello everyone, welcome back again today. So our most requested video is finally here, and I'm excited to be showing you guys the best and the perfect way to make a corset. Okay, this has been the most requested video. Everyone kept saying make a corset for beginners, so I'm going to break this down as much as possible. So I would like you guys to concentrate and really follow every step and every details. If you follow every details I'm going to be giving you in this video, you will never be able to go wrong in making a corset, either for a big bust, for a small bust, or you want to add a yoke, whatever the case might be that you want to do in your corset. After this video you will never be able to go wrong. Trust me guys, I've made a lot of corset and I'm talking from experience. So the first thing you need to do is to have your basic bodies ready, your front and your back bodies. After our drafting work, I'm going to take you guys also through the sewing process. Okay, so the measurement that we're working with is waist 29 and bust 36. Okay, so this is my front and this is my back, and my bodice doesn't have any sewing allowance whatsoever. If you've been following my videos, you know I like to do that a lot. I don't like adding sewing allowance in many cases to my patterns. I always add my sewing allowance to my fabric. Okay, so but I'm going to be showing you guys what to do. Maybe I'm going to add sewing allowance for you guys so that you can understand, so that some people don't start asking me what should they do, how do they add the allowance. So I'm going to just take you guys, so just keep watching this video, don't skip, sit back, relax and watch this video with me. So the first thing I want you to have in mind is to make sure the most important measurement you need when you are making a corset is your bust point and your under bust. Those measurements are very important. You need your bust point measurement and your under bust measurement to be accurate. The standard for bust point and under bust is between 3 inches to 3.5 inch. I will explain something to you guys here, so just listen. This is a detailed video and a detailed class. Don't skip anything, just listen to every details I'm going to be giving you here. So now you see the bust point that we have here is 9.5. From the bust point also to the under bust we have 13. So the difference between the bust point here and the under bust is 3.5. Very important. So assuming your bust point is like 11.5 and your under bust is 14 inches, so 11.5 away from 14 inches, that's like 3.5. so when you take your bust point measurement and you take your under bust measurement, make sure the difference you have between them is like 3.5. Like I tell most of my students, when you are making a corset, even if your bust point and your under bust falls between 3 inches, I tell them to use 3.5. It's very important. Okay, so I tell them to use it's safer for you to use 3.5 than, like, there are a lot of people that have a really very small bust, their under bust and their bust point fall under 3 inches, which is really perfect and fine. But I tell my students, as a beginner, your first time of trying corset, use 3.5 so you have enough room to play around all of your measurements. Okay, so that's the first point I'm going to be bringing out here. Make sure your bust point and your under bust, the difference between them is 3.5 or 3 inches. That way you know you have taken the right measurement. So you don't want to take your bust point and your under bust and you have 2 inches difference. You know that your measurement is wrong. Okay, you want to first make sure those two measurements, they are right. So after having all of those measurements, so now as you can see, I have my bust line, I have my bust point, I have my under bust, and I have my waistline. There's no sewing allowance, no dart allowance, no allowance on this pattern. So the first thing you want to do is to bring out your bust span measurement. So the bust span that we're going to be working with today is 7 inches. Okay, 7 inches bust span, which is 3.5. so I always add 0.5 inch to that. That is what I do. If your bust span is 8, which is 4, you'll be marking 4.5. So if your bust span is 7, which is 3.5, you have to now be marking 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark my bust span measurement for this pattern all the way to the bust line. This is the first step that you are going to take. You have to know your bust span measurement. Okay, so I've marked out my bust span measurement, which is 4 inches around here. The distance between here and here is 4 inches. So the next thing that you are going to be doing here listening to this part, you want to find that you see some, this is where people with bigger bust and a fuller bust. If you are someone that has a small bust, your bust is not really full, you can stick to this line. I make corset for a lot of clients where they tell me they don't really want their bust to be revealing, so this is where you have to play around it. That is why pattern drafting is so important and is the best method in achieving any design. So I'm going to come to the nape of my shoulder, of my neckline around there. I want to take up my corset cup up because I don't want it. As if you are making this for a fuller bust, that is what I'm showing you. I'm going to now be using 6 inches. Okay, I'm taking it up 6 inches. You can also decide to use 7 inches. Okay, you can play between 6 and 7 inches, depends on how full your bust area is. You see some people, they are slim but they have a really fuller bust, so if you stick to this bust line, you will notice that you are having a lot of their cleavage area just playing around the upper part of the corset and is not fitting into the cup properly. Okay, so you need to go up from my shoulder line. I'm taking 6 inches. That is how high I'm going to be taking my corset cup. That is going to be like a new neckline. Okay, that is where I'm going to start taking my cup from, 6 inches. But like I said, if you have a small bust, very tiny bust, when you talk about smaller bust, you talk about bust 32 to 34, all those small busts, you can stick to your bust line. You can use your bust line for that. Okay, you don't need to go this high as 6 inches. Okay, but I'm going to show us that part. So now here, I'll just label here as my new neckline. Okay, so here now is my new neckline that I'm going to be using. So now that we have done this, actually the next thing that you should do here, you are going to come to the center part. So this part automatically becomes my yoke. I'm going to label here as my yoke, should in case I intend to replace a yoke in this corset. Okay, some people want to have a corset, you want to have a yoke, and you want to have a sleeve, everything going on around there. Okay, so that part automatically becomes my yoke. So after doing this, the next thing you want to do is to find the middle of your cup, which is known as a cup separation. I'm going to be linking pictures here so you guys can see what I'm trying to say. Cup separation, the distance between one cup and the other cup, is known as your cup separation. So I'm going to be using 0.5 inch around here for my cup separation. Okay, so 0.5 inch is perfect. When your cup separation is not too wide, it gives your corset a better fitting. Trust me guys, I'll link a lot of pictures for you guys to see so you understand what I'm trying to say. You need to keep your cup separation not to be more than 2 inches or 1.5 inch. Okay, so now that I've chosen 0.5 inch, that means my cup separation is going to stay at 1 inch. Okay, you can also choose 0.75. that means your cup separation is going to stay at 0.75. it's going to stay at 1.5. if you choose 0.75 here, that means your cup separation will stay at 1.5. now that I've chosen 0.5, my cup separation is going to stay at 1 inch. Okay, so I'll label here cup separation 0.5 inch. Okay, I hope you guys are following what I'm doing. So after having my cup separation, the next thing you want to do, you want to do your under bust and your over bust tightening. This is a really detailed video guys, so just follow every step. So the next thing you want to do your under bust and your over bust tightening. Good. I'm going to come to my under bust at the side seam area. This is my side and this is my center. I'm going to tighten my under bust here by 1.5 inches. Okay, I'll tighten my waistline as well by 1.5 inch. Okay, I'll come to the center area. I'm going to be tightening that part by 1 inch. I'm also going to go to the under bust. I'm going to also tighten it by 1 inch. Okay, so I'll take my ruler, I'll connect these lines together like so. So 1 inch here, 1.5 inch here. So I'll connect it all the way to my bust point. Okay, so I'm going to take a curved ruler. I'm going to use it to connect it to meet up with my bust point. Okay, good. I'll take the same ruler on this other side. I'm going to connect it to meet my bust point like so. So now I've succeeded in doing my under bust tightening. So I'll go over to my over bust, okay, which is now that my new neckline. I'm going to also be tightening that part. I'm going to tighten that part with 1 inch here and tighten it also with 1 inch here, okay. So I also take my curved ruler. I'll connect from my bust point to my over bust tightening. Let me make my measurement visible. 1 inch, that's my 1 inch, okay. So I'll connect it from my bust point to meet up with that part. I'll also do the same here. I'll connect it here to meet up with my over bust tightening, okay. So now I've just succeeded in doing my under bust and my over bust tightening. Perfect. So the next thing that you're going to be doing here, you want to shape a neckline, okay. You want like a sweetheart neckline. You don't want your corset to stay straight, okay. I will explain all of that. So I'm going to come here to this my new neckline. I'm going to be coming down by 0.5 inch around there, okay. You can also come down by 1 inch, it's fine. This is just for you to shape a neckline at the center, okay. So now we're going to be shaping our neckline. You can use your pattern master to do that, okay. So I'm just going to use my pattern master. From this my over bust tightening, I'm going to connect like so, okay. Can you see what I've done? I'm going to connect like so. Then I'll come over to my side seam, okay. You are going to come over to your side seam. You are going to use a standard of 1.5 inch around here. 1.5 inch is a standard, okay. I'm going to be using a standard of 1.5 inch here. I'll mark 1.5 inch here. Then I'll take my curve ruler. I'm going to be connecting it down like so to meet up with the 1.5 inch like so. Good. So now that I have that and I have this, so I'm going to now take my curve ruler. I'm going to connect from this 1.5 inch that I came in by my side seam. I'm going to connect it. I'm going to open a cup, connect it to meet my under bust, okay. I'm connecting it from here to meet my under bust tightening. So I'm going to connect like so from that 1.5 inch to meet my under bust tightening like so, okay. Can you see? So the next thing I'm also going to be doing, from this part I'm also going to be connecting from my under bust to meet my bust point like so. So I also take my curved ruler like so. I want to connect it to meet my bust point here. So this is beginners friendly, guys. This is really simple. You can never go wrong if you follow all of this method I'm showing us here. So now you can see that I've already created like a corset cup around here. This is very, very simple. So like I said in the beginning of this tutorial, you can stay on your bust line, okay. All this tightening will be done around your bust line, but you don't want to show a lot of skin, you don't want to show a lot of cleavage. You take it up higher. You can work with 6 or you can work with 7 inches, but for this tutorial we are working with 7 inches around here. So basically we are practically done in making our corset cup, okay. This is just what you need. This is beginners friendly. Don't let anybody deceive you. We are done. We are practically done here creating our corset cup, okay. So the next thing that you want to do now is to go over to the back pattern. You want to come over to the back pattern like so. So I hope you guys can see. So I want to come over to the back pattern. The same measurement I use for the front pattern I use for my yoke, which is 6 inches. I'm also going to make sure that the back is also that same 6 inches for my new neckline, okay, just to make sure that they are accurate. So I'm going to mark a straight line around there, okay. So can you see? So I'll also label a new neckline, okay. So I also label that part new neckline for the back. So the next thing that I'm going to be doing here for this back pattern, let's see, let me adjust the camera so you guys can see. So after doing that, I'm just going to connect all the way from this my side seam of my front. I'll connect it to meet the back, my back, okay. So assuming I'm going to be adding a yoke, that's the reason why I have to bring this my new neckline. So I'll label this upper part yoke, just should in case you want to add a yoke, okay. So because you need them to be accurate along that part, so I'll rule a line to connect them that part so you guys will see. So if I'm also going to be adding a yoke to the back pattern, that is what I'm going to have around there. So this is where my neck design is going to start from. Okay, so if I'm going to be creating any kind of design for my back, this is how I'm going to be creating it. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do, I'm going to just take my curved ruler. I want to find out how deep my back neck is going to be, so I can decide to come down here by 2 inches. I want to make my back neckline that deep, so I'll take my pattern master. I'm just going to connect it like so. You can have like a straight line, you can have a curved line, any kind of neck design that you wish, just do it. Okay, so I'm going to connect it like so. Okay, so I'm just going to be connecting it all the way down. So assuming, let me use another marker pen, you are going to be making a yoke. I don't want to make this tutorial really complicated for you guys. If you are going to be creating a yoke, this is where your neck design will start from. Let me use another color of marker pen. If I'm going to be creating a yoke, it's something like this I'm going to have. Okay, can you see? That's for the yoke pattern. But now that I'm not going to be replacing this pattern with a yoke, this is just my neck design from here all the way from my back to this place. Okay, so you are going to ignore that part if you are not going to be creating a yoke. So this is it, and I'm going to also add my dart for my back. I'm going to create a dart. I'm going to be adding 1 inch dart on both sides here. I'm going to be adding 1 inch dart here at the waist. Then I'll connect it all the way to my new neckline. Okay, so this is how the back is going to be. So and basically you are done making your corset pattern. The next thing that we need to do here is just to cut this out. There's no 2 other ways about it. This is beginners friendly. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be doing now, if you have any more questions, you can ask me and I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. And practically we are done making this corset pattern, guys. This is, I try to break it down as low as possible. I don't want to complicate it for you guys, and this is the easiest way ever that you need to make a corset. So the next thing that you just need to do here, I'm going to just show us how to cut all of these patterns out. Okay, so I'll just cut out the front first. So I'll show you guys what to do. And remember, like I said, there's no seam allowance in my pattern at all, not even a 0.5 inch seam allowance. Okay, there's no seam allowance at all in my pattern. So now this is it, guys. So I'm going to now be cutting out my corset. So the first thing I want to do, I want to cut my side away. So you are going to label, okay, side, front, side, front. It's very important that you label. Don't lose any part. So just watch the way I'm going to cut this out, and we're going to be cutting out on fabric as well. So I'm going to cut. Can you see? I'll cut like so. So this is my side ready. I'm also going to come and cut my center, which is the cup separation area. Okay, I'll continue to cut like so. So you're just cutting along this straight line until you get to your neck design. Remember, we went in by 0.5 inch around here. Okay, just to deepen the neckline a little bit in the middle. So this is it. We have removed that part. Can you see? So this is the center, which is the cup separation. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to be taking away my yoke. Okay, assuming you intend to make a yoke, this automatically now is your yoke. Okay, this automatically becomes your yoke. If you are going to be replacing your pattern with a yoke, that automatically becomes your yoke. So the next thing that I'm going to do now is to take away all of my tightening. I'll keep those ones aside. I want to start cutting out my dart. So before I do that, I'm going to label. I'll say center cup, okay, side cup. good, super. So you can see after taking away my tightening, this is what I have. And you are going to make sure you notch your bust point, okay, so that you can know where you are going to be joining the two cup together. So I'll take this aside, I'll pick my bust point, and I'm going to notch it, okay. We're also going to be notching it on our fabric. I'll pick my bust point and I'm going to notch that part as well. So can you see, this is how we're going to be joining our two cup together, okay. So now this is how it works. This is my cup separation. Can you see? If I'm going to be adding a yoke, this is my side cup, okay, and all of my pieces is ready. So but we're not going to be sewing a yoke in this class, so we're going to keep the yoke aside. This is what we're going to be working with. So I'll keep the front pattern aside, then I'll bring the back pattern as well, so we can cut this out too. So I'm going to be cutting through this my neckline, okay. This is what I'm going to be cutting through. So if we are going to be putting zip at the back, okay, if we are cutting on the fabric, all you need to do is to just add your zip allowance, okay. But if you are not going to be putting zip, you are going to be lacing it, okay. You know, lacing, you need to give your pattern, you need to give your garment a space to breathe, okay. That is what lacing is all about. So but we are going to be doing a lacing, or rather eyelet. We are going to be using eyelet for this pattern. So I'm going to just take away 1 inch, okay. I'll take away 1 inch from my back. So whenever you are going to be doing lacing for your corset or for any garment, you need to minus that measurement. You need to know how open you want that part to be, okay. So I want my back to be as open as 2 inches. That is why I'm taking away 1 inch, okay. This is where my loop, or my eyelet rather, this is where it's going to sit, okay. So I'm just going to cut this one out automatically. So I'll take that out, it's no longer needed. And you have to note it that you have minus 1 inch away from your back, because you want it to have a space to breathe. You want your eyelet to have a space. So when I bring my other back, it's going to be as open as 2 inches. So the next thing I'll need to do, I'll just close up my dart. I might not be sewing a dart on this pattern, but if you want to sew a dart, you can just cut that open, okay. You can just cut it open if you are going to be sewing a dart. But if you don't want to sew a dart, you're just going to close out your dart, okay. So this is what we have for the back, and I'm going to label it. I'm going to label up, and I'm going to label down. I'm going to label center, then I'm going to label side, okay, side back. So this is very, very important, guys. So the next thing that we're going to do is to go ahead to cut on our fabric. I'm going to show us how to add seam allowances around all of these patterns that we have cut out. Hi guys, so I'm just pinning all of my patterns to my fabric right now, as you can see. So this is my center cup, it's obvious, and this is my center, and this is my side piece. So for the side, I'm going to be adding, remember, like I said in my pattern, there was no seam allowance. So for this side, I'm going to be adding as much as 3 inches seam allowance. So the reason why I'm adding as much as 3 inches seam allowance, remember all of the tightening that we did, okay. All the tightening we did, we need to replace all of those darts back, and the seam allowance to sew it, we need to replace it. So I'm adding as much as 3 inches to my side seam. So at the bottom, I'm adding 1 inch, okay. There was no seam allowance here before, so I'm going to be adding 1 inch here. So at the side, I'm adding 0.5 inch all around it. Every other part, 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch. I'm just going around with my tape. I'm adding 0.5 inch everywhere, like so. So at the top, I'm adding 0.5 inch as well. So I'll do the same thing here, 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch. At the top to 0.5 inch. At this side 0.5 inch. Okay, so at the M 1 inch. So you need to be accurate with your seam allowance so that when you are sewing, it makes it easy when you are joining. So I'm just adding all of this seam allowance around it. So I'm also going to go around the cup to add same 0.5 inch. Okay, you see all of this sharp edge. Okay, that's the trick I'm going to be showing you guys, this sharp edge, because I get a lot of my students asking me where are they going to stop joining the cup. This sharp edge is where you are, when you are joining these two cups together, that is where they are going to end that. Okay, so that is why it's very important that you note that part. Okay, it's very important you note it. So after adding all of this seam allowance, the next thing that I need to do, I'm going to cut. So my fabric is on fold. Okay, I have two fabric folded together, so I'm cutting times 2. Okay, so you're going to be cutting times 2. So I have everything cut out like so. Can you see? So this is my center, this is my side, and this is my 2 cup. So you are going to, you see the area where I notched it. I'm also going to just pick it up like so, and I'm going to also notch that part so that I can know where to join my 2 cup. This is very important, so you don't get confused, because sometimes the both cup might just be looking the same. So another easiest way for you to know which cup stays on the side and which one stays on the center, the side cup is always bigger than the center cup. Okay, the side cup is always wider than the center cup. So I've notched my bust point, very important. You're going to put a notch around there. Okay, I've notched there. So now already looking at this cup, I already know this part is going to be joining to this part. Can you see? So this is my center cup, and this is another center cup like so. You see, so this is very easy. This is very easy for you guys to follow. You can see I have a really long cup, okay, which is very important you do as a beginner. That is why I went up by 7 inches, by 6 inches, for you guys to see. So now that you have gone up so much like that, you can control your cup. Anything you want to do, you will never have any issues for the client breast or cleavage area. Everything is showing on the outside of your cup. You can control that from there. So now that we have done with the front, so my fabric was on fold. I have two pieces out there. They are all cut in 2. So I'll go ahead to cut out the lining I'll also go ahead to cut out breast pad on all of this pattern. Okay, I'm going to be adding breast pad everywhere on the front. Very important when you make a corset, because you need it to have that firmness. Okay, so I'll bring my fabric here. My fabric is going to be enough for me, so I'm using the old so I'm going to close out my dart. Okay, so I'm just going to close out my dart, then I'll cut. I don't want to separate it, but you can separate yours. Okay, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to be folding out my dart. So my fabric is also folded ×2. Pin. So for the back, I'm also going to be adding as much as 2 inches seam allowance to the back as well. Okay, remember, because of all of the dart, I took 2 inches dart from the back, and I need to add seam allowance as well. There's no seam allowance. Okay, for this center back, I'm going to be adding this area where our eyelet. Okay, this is the eyelet we are going to be using, and this is the eyelet plier. So we'll get on to that video. Okay, the eyelet and the eyelet plier for the back. So it's going to be a really detailed tutorial, guys, so don't skip any part, and make sure to watch out for part 2 of this video. Okay, so I'm just going to be adding 0.5 inch around here. Okay, so 1 inch at the end. So I'm just eyeballing my 1 inch here, guys. 1 inch at the end, and as much as 2 to 3 inches at the side. Okay, so I'm using 2.5. Okay, I'm just using 2.5. Okay, I'll connect. So I'm using 1/2 inch at the top. So 2.5 inch seam allowance for the back at the side. Then at the center part where our eyelet is going to be, I'm using 0.5 inch seam allowance. So let me measure that. 0.5. So now that the back is cut out and all of our patterns are ready, so I'll go ahead to cut my lining. I'll do that off camera, guys. I'll cut my lining and I'll cut out all of the breast pad, and I'm going to iron the breast pad to it. So watch out for part 2, where we're going to be sewing all of these patterns together. I'm going to be showing you guys the tricks and tips to sew your corset easily, guys. It's very, very easy. Okay, it's not as difficult as it seems. Okay, so if you like this video and if you find this video interesting, don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.